I'm assuming that for this message that you have read the passage in John's Gospel, the very long section from the beginning of chapter 18 right through to the end of chapter 19. You mightn't have read it all in one go, but if you did, you can't help but be impacted. I can't read it without choking up. So I'm just certainly not going to read it here. I just want to talk to you for a few minutes about some aspects. First of all, the cross. It's not given great emphasis in John's Gospel because the cross was a familiar thing, not as a symbol, but as a tool of execution. I used to think sometimes that we Christians should wear around our necks little electric chairs, because that was the method of execution when I was a kid. They don't do it very much now, thank God. The cross was a symbol in the ancient world of all sorts of things. It had bent arms in the form of a swastika, which was a positive symbol long before the Nazis bent the arms the other way and gave it a totally new and ugly meaning. But the Christians grabbed hold of the symbolism that already existed and took the cross of Jesus and made them into one. The cross appears all sorts of places in our society. Outside of churches, you don't often see crosses that are real symbols of crucifixion with a crown of thorns on them. So I went to a few places to see what it was like. Next I want to think about the arrest of Jesus. The soldiers came to him and said Jesus said, "Who are you looking for?" They said, "Jesus of Nazareth." And he answered, "I am." Our translations all say, "I am he." But that wouldn't cause them to fall down like they did. They all fell down, fell backwards, because Jesus, of course, was using the name of God, and these were temple police who were Jewish. He was saying, "I am Yahweh," the name of God in common Hebrew or Aramaic. So he makes that claim right at the beginning of this adventure, and we have to see that in John's Gospel, Jesus is God from beginning to end. He is the Word made flesh. He is God incarnate. He is the one who shows us by his actions what God does, what God is like, the character of God. If you want to know what the character of God is, quite simple. According to John, you look at Jesus. And that's what we do. If we want to know what God is like, we look at him, all the way to the cross and through it and beyond. There are many things in the trial and execution of Jesus that we could consider. The trial before Pilate, where Pilate sees that this man is no rebel, he's no political upstart who's going to lead a revolt against the might of Rome, but nevertheless he quizzes Jesus about what he thinks. How can this man imagine himself to be a king? And they have an interesting conversation, which I could talk about at great length, but all I want to do today is to say Jesus doesn't deny that he is a king, but he doesn't explain it either, nor does he actually affirm it, because Pilate won't have the faintest idea what he means. Because what Jesus means by a king is unimaginable to a man like Pilate. The last reflection I'd like to make is on the soldiers. Different soldiers this time, they're Romans. ones who crucified him. And they gambled for his clothes because they didn't want to tear the robe. So, using dice, the dice won the robe. My favourite priest, poet, padre, First World War padre and chaplain in the trenches in Flanders was the Reverend Geoffrey Anketell Stullett Kennedy. He wrote poems which he called rough rhymes of a padre. And that's what he published the book of poems as, but it's become known for many years is The Unutterable Beauty. And this man has been my mentor, my guide, my theological shining star, and my example of life for, well, more than 50, nearly 60 years. And I love his simple poems. They're not complex poetry. They're the kinds of things that anyone can relate to, and this one especially. It's called He Was a Gambler Too. And sitting down, they watched him there. The soldiers did. There, while they played with dice, he made his sacrifice and died upon the cross to rid God's world of sin. He was a gambler too by Christ. He took his life and threw it for a world redeemed. And ere his agony was done, before the westering sun went down, crowning that day with its crimson crown, he knew that he had won. The Lord be with you. The Lord bless you especially as you wait for the resurrection. Not only at Easter Sunday, but our resurrection as a society, as a world, as a church congregation, when the strange restrictions of the new world are lifted. We wait for that day. What will it bring? New life? We have to wait and see.